Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read this part, and then I'm going to go back and explain it. And it reads, continually through the breaking of the uncivilized savage N-words, by throwing the N-word female savage into a frozen psychological state of independence, by killing the protective male image, by creating a submissive, dependent mind of the N-word male savage, we have created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever, unless a phenomenon occurs and reshifts the position of the female savages. Okay, so we need to go ahead back and kind of break that down. Continually, meaning all the time they are focused on breaking Africans, okay, breaking them out of what is normal, what is natural to them. Citing, and I'm going to say this gentleman's name slowly to pronounce it hopefully correctly, Kokunre Akbontain Ekhafona, an academician of the Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences, said in pre-colonial Nigeria, family hierarchy was generally patrilineal and patriarchal, with the most senior male, usually the father or grandfather, holding the head of the household. This individual was responsible for making decisions, managing property, and providing for the family. Within the household, men were typically tasked with providing for the family through hunting, fishing, and farming, while women were responsible for childcare and domestic duties. Extended family systems were also common, with multiple generations living together and sharing resources. And one, by throwing the African female savage into a frozen psychological state of independence, meaning that she is no longer depending on the male for guidance, for comfort, for security, for strength, none of those things, okay, because they've broken her from that through the processes that she saw with the tearing apart of the slave by the horses and the beating to within an inch of his life, and not seeing that just one time, but seeing that over and over again. It has caused her to say, well, I can no longer depend on the male, on my counterpart, to help me in this situation. So I have to do what I need to do for myself and for my children. And then by killing the protective male image, by creating a submissive, dependent mind of the N-word male savage, they said we have created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever. So you can see the intent, the evil, wicked intent. And you can see also that this was the only way that they could have conquered us as Africans, because they couldn't do it by strength. They tried that already. It didn't work. They couldn't do it through religion. They tried that. It didn't work. But what they did do is they focused on our males. They focused on our men, okay, which for us was our strength, okay? And then what they did was they just destroyed his image. You know, they took him from someone who we could rely on, who we could depend on, who would protect us no matter what, even lay down his own life for us. They took that away, okay? And then with the one that they would rip apart with the horses, and then they created this submissive, dependent mind of the other male by beating him to within an inch of his life, and then having the female African nurse him back to health. He no longer had strength. He no longer viewed himself as someone who could protect his wife, his children. They just stripped all of that away. And then they killed that protective image. And they created this submissive, humbled slave. And I mean, just, he had his soul, his spirit, her soul, her spirit were broken. And by that, they got advantage of Africans over here in America, away from anyone else that they could go to for support. This was a very well thought out plan and method of breaking people. And they did it. And then we still have people nowadays, African descendant females and African descendant males are more at odds now, it seems, than they have ever been. Part of the continuing of this process was that once slaves were freed and the OPECs didn't have the physical control of the slaves that they did, then they started using our differences. So, you know, that man, he's not doing this and he's not doing that. They just did all kinds of things to keep us from coming back together as a people, because they knew if that occurred, then that was it. It was a wrap. They could call it a day. It was over. And they still try to use these things against us today. And we need to see that so that we can get back to the position that the Almighty intended for us to have. Even religion. I mean, they even messed with that, rewrote that. You know, the King James Version or Bible, whose version of the Bible we cherish. Why did they cherish it so much? Certainly not because it was true. There's so much in there that can be discounted. It's ridiculous. I'm not saying the scripture itself can be discounted, but I'm saying their version can. So then it stops with unless a phenomenon occurs and reshifts the position of the female savage. So what does that mean? Does that mean that we have to now become subservient? No, it doesn't mean that. What it means is that we have to see the power that we as a people have by us coming together and there being one head. And it's no secret that physically men are stronger, right? And mentally they're strong too. If they don't have all these other obstacles, these things that are in the way, they're constantly fighting and arguing and bickering about among our own people, which is what they set it up to be, so that we couldn't focus on what we need to do. And we need to understand that. We really do need to understand that. Okay. So unless this phenomenon occurred and reshifts the position of the female savage, meaning let's get back in line with what we were supposed to do so we can do what we were supposed to do and have what was and is rightfully ours, so we can truly be free. You know, it's not about, I'm not going to do, this man can't tell me what to do. It's not about that. Please get past that, my lovely, beautiful sisters. Please get past that, please. If I had known better, I would have gotten past it myself. And I would have been much more successful in my relationship. I would have. So please get past that. And so we can come together. We can unite as a people. and be who we were intended to be. Okay, I'm doing this little by little, bit by bit. This one's a little bit long, so it's going to be one of its own, one posting of its own. And my time is running out. Okay, so peace and blessings to y'all. All right, thank you for joining me. And let's get this together. And let's stay woke. Stay woke. Don't sleep. Don't even take a nap, y'all. Stay woke. And we will see you next time.